English made easy. Hey guys, feeling overwhelmed by the fast pace of Wordly Wise 3000? I've been there, too. Welcome to your 40-minute slow listening sanctuary. We've tuned every sentence to the classic slow English standard, giving your brain the perfect window to process and truly master every word. I'm your 1 degree north companion. Ready? Let's begin. Book 4. Lesson 5. Have you ever had one of those days where you just feel like the ugly duckling? Well, our story today is about a man who knew that feeling better than anyone, a man whose own life turned out to be the greatest fairy tale he ever told. So, take a look at this guy. Yep, this is him. Tall, kind of awkward, with a nose that was maybe a little too big for his face. Back in the 19th century, a time that was all about being practical and following the rules, he was a total dreamer. And for that, well, he was often mocked, made fun of, just for being different. But here's where it gets magical. The people who made fun of him, we have no idea who they were. Their names are completely lost to time. But his stories? Oh, his stories are whispered to children in every corner of the globe. So who was this man whose words became immortal? His name was Hans Christian Andersen. And his secret was like a kind of alchemy. He literally took the lead of his own sorrow and spun it into the pure gold of fairy tales that would shine for centuries. So, here's how our journey into Andersen's world is going to go. First, we're going to grab the words we need to unlock his story. Then, we'll watch the incredible transformation of the ugly duckling. And finally, we'll see what his journey can teach us about our own. You know, every great adventure requires a map and a key. Our map is Andersen's life, and our key, well, it's the words that truly defined it. So let's get started. Our first word is basically a superpower: persist. It's the athlete training when they're exhausted, the scientist staring at a failed experiment, or even a little kid learning to walk. It's that simple but kind of heroic act of just trying again. And this breaks it down perfectly. You attempt something new. You might fail, let's be real, you'll probably fail more than once. But that crucial step, the one where all the magic happens, is when you decide to persist. This exact cycle was the engine for Andersen's entire life. All right, next up is the artist's secret touch: revise. This isn't just about fixing spelling mistakes, no, it's about transforming something ordinary into something extraordinary. For Andersen, it was this quiet, lonely work of a craftsman, just chiseling away at every single sentence until it became a little jewel. And right here, this is the heart of his struggle. On one side, you have Andersen, this deeply sensitive soul, like a violin string that vibrated with every single emotion. But the world around him played a really harsh tune. It treated him with contempt, that cold, awful feeling that he was worthless. A violin string against a stone wall, and it's from that painful clash that characters like the Little Match Girl were born. And then there's the word that can shatter any fairy tale, abruptly. It's the sound of a door slamming shut, a light suddenly going out. For young Hans, the world he knew was about to disappear in an instant. Okay, now that we're armed with our vocabulary, we can finally follow the tracks of the swan. Let's trace Andersen's real-life ugly duckling story from the muddy pond of his childhood all the way to the clear waters of fame. So here's the map of his life. He was born into poverty, but in a home rich with love. Then, at just 11 years old, his life changed abruptly when his father died. By 14, he was a lonely boy, attempting to make a new life for himself in the big city of Copenhagen. And then, get this, it took 15 more years of struggle before the world would finally recognize his name. You know, in this tiny toy theater, you can see the seed of an entire universe. Even as a boy, Anderson was a world builder, a god of paper and string. Here, in the warm glow of his parents' love, he wasn't odd at all. He was a master of magic, creating stories with these quaint, charming characters he'd brought to life himself. But when that little theater went dark, the real world came rushing in. In the harsh light of the factory where he worked, his dreams were met with contempt. Every cruel word, every mocking laugh, it became like a splinter in his heart. But it was from those very splinters that he would one day carve his most beautiful characters. When he got to Copenhagen, he knocked on every door he could find, but each one was slammed in his face. He attempted to be an actor, no luck. He tried dancing and singing, he really wasn't very good. He even tried writing plays, but the theater owners just rejected them. It's like he was a ghost in this city of dreams. But this ghost refused to dissipate. He persisted. He took all of that rejection, all of that contempt, and he melted it all down in his imagination. He became a writer, not just because he wanted to, but because he had to. He had to revise his own story. And then, in the quiet of his lonely room, he heard a voice. It was the voice of his father, telling him all those old stories of mermaids and emperors. He realized he didn't need to invent new worlds, he just needed to recall the one he already came from. And with that, the dam broke. The stories just flooded out, the Little Mermaid, the Emperor's new clothes, the ugly duckling. More than 150 of them. Each one was a piece of his own heart offered to the world. The strange, lonely boy was gone, in his place stood a swan, and its wings spanned the entire globe. So Anderson's story clearly endures. But what's the lesson from the swan for us? It isn't just about him. It's a timeless lesson about finding your own voice and about the incredible power of not giving up. Just take a second and really think about that. Imagine a world without the Little Mermaid. A world where the ugly duckling never found its wings. All of that beauty, all of that hope, it all hinged on one person's decision to just not give up. And now, it's your turn. What's the story of your persistence? What's the ugly duckling waiting to become a swan inside of you? Take a moment and write your own little fairy tale. For an extra challenge, try to use at least 3 of the new words we learned today. And just remember, every story of triumph begins with the courage to try again. Lesson 6.
All right, fashionistas, welcome. We are coming to you live from what might be, no, what is the most jaw-dropping, scandalous, and let's be honest, completely invisible runway show in history. Forget Paris, forget Milan, darling. Right now, all eyes are on this imperial capital, because we are about to witness a fashion catastrophe of truly epic proportions. So let's get right into it. So here's the rundown for tonight's, well, let's call it a disastrous debut. First, we've got a major fashion alert on the royal scandal that's been brewing. Then we'll break down the lingo in our designer's dictionary. After that, it's the main event, the runway reveal. And of course, we'll go behind the scenes to look at the storyteller before we wrap it all up with your final look, where you guessed it, you get to play critic. Okay, first up, fashion alert. We're talking royal scandal. The theme of this collection? Vanity. And the price tag? Oh, just an entire empire's treasury. No big deal. So let's meet our client, our muse, our victim. We're talking about an emperor who is so unbelievably vain that his main job, his entire purpose, it seems, is just staring at himself for hours. And I mean hours. Forget about his soldiers, forget about his people. The only thing on his mind is the next outfit. It's the ultimate case of style over substance. But honey, we've taken it to a whole new, terrifying level. And right into this fashion-obsessed bubble walk two so-called master tailors. And their sales pitch? Oh, it's a good one. They promise him a suit so magnificent, so absolutely revolutionary, that it'll make everything else he owns look completely drab. We're talking the peak of haute couture. But of course there's always a catch, isn't there? And here's the catch, these guys aren't designers. Not even close. They're scoundrels. And just so we're all clear, a scoundrel is basically a mean, wicked person. Con artist. They're not here to sew some masterpiece. Nope. They're here to swindle a fool. And oh boy, have they found the perfect one. All right, time to move on. Before we can truly appreciate or, completely mock this new collection, we need to get our terminology straight. So let's open up the designer's dictionary. Okay, first word, crafty. And you gotta understand, when we say crafty, we're not talking about some brilliant sewing skills. Oh no. Their craft is being skilled at tricking people. It's like their talent is deception, their main tool is flattery, and the final product, well, it's literally pure air. And then you have this word, exquisite. Everyone who is sent to check on the progress comes back just raving about how exquisite the clothes are. Exceptionally beautiful, so delicate. But what are they even talking about? It's an empty loom. They're describing nothing. This is the real genius of the scam, you see. The more exquisite you make the lie, the more terrified everyone is to admit they don't see a thing. Which brings us to the one thing nobody, and I mean nobody, in this entire palace dares to do. And that is to disclose. To just make it known. The ministers see nothing. The emperor himself sees nothing. But will anyone disclose the truth? No way. They're all just trapped in this weird bubble of silence, absolutely terrified of being the one who looks like a fool. So this whole situation sets up a showdown of reactions, right? On one side, you have applause. But it's not real applause. It's forced, it's polite, it's totally driven by fear. And on the other side, you have a jeer which is brutally honest, totally mocking, and in this case, it's the absolute truth. Let's see which one wins. And here we go, the moment we have all been waiting for. It is time for the main event, the runway reveal. The Emperor is about to hit the streets in his brand new one-of-a-kind and completely imaginary suit. This is gonna be good. So picture this. The Emperor is getting dressed and all his ministers are around him just gushing. Oh, it's magnificent. The colors. The fit. But inside, they're totally freaking out. Text says they felt uneasy. They knew it was a lie, but with all that social pressure and the fear of what the Emperor might do, they felt like they were stuck. Like they had no choice. It's a total collective delusion. Okay, let's just be crystal clear about the final look here. The actual number of new clothes on the Emperor's body is 0. A big fat 0. Zip zilch nada. He's walking through town in his underwear. And yet the people in the crowd, who have probably been told what to do, are all cheering like it's the greatest thing they've ever seen. But then it happens. The one moment that just shatters the whole fantasy. Over all that fake applause, one tiny clear voice just cuts through all the noise. It's a little kid and he just yells out the simple, devastating truth. Look, the Emperor has no clothes. And boom, just like that, the spell is broken. You can literally hear it ripple through the crowd. The applause dies down, it turns into whispers, the whispers turn into giggles and then full-on jeers. Once that truth is out there, you can't put it back. The Emperor finally gets it. He's been had, and he just bolts back to the palace with the whole town laughing at him. What a fashion disaster. A true legend. So, the runway show might be over, but you know our analysis is just getting started. It's time to go behind the scenes and meet the real designer, the master storyteller who stitched this whole incredible tale together. The real mastermind behind this brilliant piece of satire? None other than the legendary Hans Christian Andersen. And you know, like any truly great designer, he knew how to borrow from the classics. This story wasn't, 100% original. He was a master at taking old folk tales he heard as a kid and basically restitching them, adding his own unique, super sharp insight. And let me tell you, Andersen was persistent. This guy was a true craftsman. He wrote poems, novels, plays, you name it. But the key thing? He was obsessed with getting it right. He would revise and revise and revise his sentences until they were perfect. And that dedication is what made his fairy tales so famous, because as we're seeing, they are way, way more than just simple stories for kids. So this really gets to the heart of it, right? Why did everybody go along with this crazy lie? Well, this quote pretty much explains everything. It wasn't just about, oh, I can't disagree with the emperor. It was deeper. Disagreeing meant confessing that you had poor taste. Meant admitting you were incompetent, maybe even unfit for your job. That fear, the fear of being judged, is what kept everyone silent. Okay, that brings us to our final segment. The runway is clear. The so-called critics in the story have had their say, but now it's your turn. Time for your final look. So, I want to ask you something directly. I want you to put yourself right there in the story. You're one of the emperor's most trusted ministers. You walk in, you see the empty loom. You see your boss about to parade around in his underwear. What do? Seriously. Do you risk your job, your reputation, maybe even your life to disclose the truth? Or do you just keep quiet? And for your final challenge, I've got a little design brief for you. Unlike the emperor's so-called clothes, real beauty actually exists. So here's what I want you to do. Find a piece of art, any art that you think is truly, genuinely beautiful, and then using the words entire, intend, and refine, try to describe it. It's your chance to use words to celebrate something real instead of just pretending it's there. That's our show from the front row. Thanks for tuning in.
Lesson 7.
All right, let's take a deep breath, because today we are plunging into the ocean's depths. We're heading into a world of shifting sands and hidden crevices, all to track down one of nature's most elusive and intelligent agents. You know, in an environment where survival is a non-stop battle between predator and prey, the ability to just vanish, well, that's the ultimate superpower. So, who holds the title? Well, it's a creature with 8 arms, a brain that's literally all over its body, and a toolkit of tricks that would make any secret agent totally jealous. Let's meet the octopus. Now, to really understand how this operative not only survives but thrives, we have to declassify its secret language. These are the tactical commands hardwired into its very being. And trust me, these aren't just words. They are its entire operational playbook. First up on the dossier, eject. Think of this as the octopus's panic button. It's an absolute last-ditch escape maneuver. We're not talking about a gentle release here. This is a sudden, forceful expulsion. But of what exactly? Okay, picture a classic spy movie. The agent is cornered, no way out. Then, poof. Cloud of smoke goes off and they make a clean getaway. Well, the octopus perfected this move. It ejects this blob of black inky liquid that just hangs in the water, creating a perfect ghost-like decoy. Its whole purpose? To confuse and misdirect its attacker. Genius, right? Let's move to the next code word, flexible. And this is so much more than just being bendy. For the octopus, it's a fundamental design principle for infiltration and evasion. The ability to completely alter its own form is absolutely critical when your world is a maze of tight spots and narrow escapes. And here's what's so fascinating. This incredible flexibility comes from something that seems like a weakness. The octopus has no bones, not even a single one. This means it can literally pour its body into empty shells or under rocks, becoming the ultimate contortionist and disappearing into gaps that look completely impossibly small. But this creature isn't just a master of defense. Oh no! It is a formidable hunter, and its signature offensive move is to seize. This is never a hesitant action. It's a swift, powerful grab that leaves pretty much no chance of escape. And this just perfectly illustrates its method. Each one of its 8 powerful arms is equipped with, as you can see right here, 2 rows of suckers that can taste and touch. This gives it an unbreakable, intelligent grip. So when an unsuspecting crab scurries by, those arms lash out and seize it, securing the octopus's next meal. So we've looked at the skills one by one. Now let's see how they all come together in a high-stakes life-or-death situation. Picture this. An octopus is moving across the rocky seabed, just foraging for food. Then a shadow falls over it. Its ancient enemy, a shark, is closing in. Out here in the open, there's nowhere to run and absolutely no time for a complex plan. The response has to be primal and it has to be immediate. And the octopus's reaction is exactly that, instant. There's zero hesitation. The entire defensive sequence we're about to see unfolds in less time than it takes for you to blink. Okay, so let's break down the escape plan. First, a neurological command fires and thousands of these tiny pigment-filled sacs in its skin, they're called chromatophores, instantly change its color to match the rocks around it. Boom! Next, it ejects that ink decoy, a perfect silhouette of itself. The shark, now totally confused, goes for the ink blob, and while the predator is distracted, the octopus, now perfectly camouflaged, just slips away. A flawless escape. So we've seen the agent in action. Now it's time for the mission debrief. Let's declassify some of the deeper intelligence we have on this incredible animal. The key takeaway here is that this animal is way more complex than it looks. Most species, they like the warm, shallow coastal waters where they're actually keen predators. They've got keen eyesight, perfectly adapted for hunting at night. Their intelligence is legendary, with a huge brain-to-body ratio for an invertebrate. It's also worth noting, most are kind of solitary agents on a brief, brilliant mission. Many only live for a year or two, and they can range in size from as small as your thumb to spanning a massive 30 feet across. Now this quote, this reveals a profound intelligence. This isn't just instinct. This is foresight, patience, and actual tool use. This kind of problem solving is remarkable because it evolved on a completely different path from us. I mean, think about it. Without a protective shell in a dangerous, complex reef, the octopus had to evolve immense brain power just to survive. It's a powerful example of how pressure forges brilliance. This brings us to a really critical point. Fiction just loves to portray the octopus as some terrifying monster of the deep, right? But the real field intelligence tells a completely different story. Around humans, they are overwhelmingly shy, curious, and gentle creatures. They're masters of disguise, not malevolent monsters. So, we've declassified the octopus's file. We've learned its operational code words, and we've witnessed its tactics in action. And now it's time to turn the mission over to you. Time for your mission briefing. Knowing what you know now, if you were leading an expedition, what specialized equipment would your team need? What strategies would you even use to observe an animal that can vanish in an instant, solve puzzles, and outwit simple traps? Think about it. And for your final assignment, take the intelligence from today's briefing and apply it to your own life. Using at least 3 code words we talked about, like seize, eject, or flexible, describe a time you were confused. Because the more we understand these concepts, the more we can appreciate the incredible world of the octopus. An unarmed agent that is anything but defenseless.
Lesson 8. All right, fellow explorers, take a deep breath. We are about to do something pretty incredible. We're going to leave our world behind and travel through time itself to a land of sand and sun to witness one of the last true wonders of the ancient world. Let's go. Our time machine is set. We're dialing it way back. We're not talking years or decades. We're going back 45 centuries. 4.5 millennia of human history spooling backwards until we reach our destination, ago. And we've arrived. The air is dry, the sun is blazing, and before us stands a monument that will outlast empires. You know, even to people living thousands of years ago, this place was ancient. A Greek writer, Antipater, made a list of what he called the 7 wonders of the world. Kind of like the ultimate ancient bucket list. But you know what? Of all those incredible structures, only one is still standing today. And we are looking right at it. So, the big question, right? How on earth did they build this? No cranes, no power tools, just millions and millions of stone blocks. Well, The secret to how it was built, it actually doesn't start here at the pyramid. No, this story starts miles away, in a place called a quarry. This is where every single block of the pyramid was born. They were literally carved out of the earth by hand. Just imagine the sheer manpower that took. And here's a cool little language fact for you about the word quarry. It actually has two totally separate meanings. The stone quarry comes from a Latin word, but the quarry that a hunter chases, that comes from an old French word. So, same word, but two completely different histories. Kind of neat, right? So think about the incredible journey of just one of these stones. First, it's cut from the quarry. Then, these huge blocks, some weighed as much as 15 tons, that's like 2 elephants, were floated across the Nile River, and finally, they had to be dragged up a gigantic earthen ramp to get them into place. Now this ramp is one of the biggest mysteries of all. Nobody knows for sure what it looked like. Was it one super long, straight ramp, or did it spiral around the pyramid like a corkscrew? We're still debating it, but we know one thing: without that ramp, this pyramid wouldn't exist. Now something you might not know is that the pyramid we see today is basically just the skeleton. Back in its day, the entire surface was covered in a smooth, polished white limestone. Can you imagine that? In the desert sun, it would have gleamed like a giant diamond. So where did it all go? Well, centuries later, the stones were taken to help build the city of Cairo. Okay, enough of the bright sun. Let's do what so few have ever done. Let's head inside. We are about to explore the dark, hidden interior of this massive stone mountain. To get to the heart of this place, we have to descend. We're going down, from the light of the desert into the cool, silent darkness. Every step we take is a step further into the past. There's only one way in, a single designated entry point. And what's wild is its precision. The entrance is aligned almost perfectly to true north. The level of astronomical skill that required back then is just mind-blowing. Once you're inside, you find yourself in this long, narrow passage. The air is so still, and you can just feel the weight of all that rock above you. It's a little bit claustrophobic, not going to lie. But then, just when you're getting used to that tight squeeze, everything changes. You walk into this incredibly spacious room, with a ceiling so high it disappears into the shadows. The shift from that narrow passage to this huge open area is absolutely breathtaking. We've finally made it. We are deep in the center of the Great Pyramid, standing in the very place this entire structure was built for. This was meant to be the eternal resting place of a king who was seen as a living god. This is the pharaoh's chamber. And this wasn't just any room, it's a chamber. That word implies a special, almost sacred purpose. This was the tomb of King Cheops, his portal to the next life. And he wasn't supposed to make that journey empty-handed. Oh no, this chamber was once overflowing with precious things. We're talking food, drink, incredible jewels, solid gold objects, everything they believed he would need to live like a king in the afterlife. To guard all this treasure, they sealed the chamber with massive granite plugs. They did everything in their power to make sure nobody could ever get in. But it didn't work. Somehow, intruders found a way in, and they stole it all. It's even believed they took the king's body itself. So if the tomb failed, what's its legacy? What did it all mean? Well, this is where it gets really amazing. The pyramid is a triumph, not just of building, but of an idea. Just try to wrap your head around this timeline. It was built 4,500 years ago. It was already ancient when the Greeks were calling it a wonder. It watched its brilliant white skin get stripped away, and today, here it stands, the last one left, a witness to pretty much all of human history. And this is the real secret. Why did thousands of people spend 20 years of their lives doing this? Because they believed. They believed their king was a god, a direct descendant of the sun god Ra. And by building this tomb, they believed they were keeping their entire universe in balance. Which leads to a pretty fascinating question, doesn't it? As a secure tomb, it was a total failure. But as a monument, it's been a wild success. It has kept the name of King Cheops alive for 4,500 years. So when you look at it that way, was it really a failure after all? And so I'll leave you with this final thought. If you were to build a chamber just like this one to last for thousands of years, what one precious thing would you seal inside for a future civilization to discover? What would you want to tell them about us? Thanks for coming on this journey with me today. Thanks so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss an update. I'll see you in the next one.